If you have an interest in South Australian history, this is a product I guarantee you are going to love. The history of South Australia from foundation to Jubilee. It doesn't sound a lot, it doesn't sound that fascinating, it doesn't look that fascinating, but in reality it's 2 huge volumes of about 800 pages, with 600 pages being general history. That sort of covers everything from the foundation, the forming the colony and so on, to the governors, etc. That's not what I'm wanting to talk to you about. It's actually the last 200 pages. That is the really interesting part. So it's actually chronological history from anecdotal stuff that happened. And I just wanted to give you a whole bunch of samples. So we start off with December the 28th, 1836, arrival of first governor, Captain Hindmarsh, proclamation read erecting South Australia into the British province. So that is the first entry. Now this goes through, entry by entry, it goes through till the 7th of November 1892. But anyway, I wanted to read a number of samples for you. So let's see, March the 10th, 1837, the survey of Adelaide was completed. Unless you know the history, you're not going to know that kind of stuff. So the 23rd of May, the naming of the streets and squares commenced. In October 1841, the arrival of 57,200 vine cuttings and a choice variety of fruit trees from the Cape arrived for the South Australian Vine Association. And by December, nearly 2,000 people were destitute and being supported by the government at the time. Now in 1853, Mr. W.R. Randall built the first Murray steamer, for which he was awarded £300 by the government and a purse of gold by his fellow colonists. Now this is actually my great-grandpa's half-brother, so there's family stuff that I'm finding in here, so that's very cool. Some more samples. So we have, in January 1860, the thermometer reached 158 degrees Fahrenheit in the sun. Fruit literally roasted on the trees. Birds took shelter in the houses of settlers. Not surprising when you work out that 158 degrees Fahrenheit is 70 degrees. Now we've reached around close to 50 a couple of times, and that is roasting, so I cannot imagine what that would be like. So February 1860, Mr. S. Hack returned to Adelaide from a very successful exploration of the north. May the 13th, 1860, execution at Franklin Harbour of a native who was found guilty of murdering John Jones of the same place. Now a few more examples. In 1868, there were some large fires this year. There was Duffield's flour mill, if I get that right, Duffield's flour mill at Gawler. 10,000 bushels of wheat and other property valued at £12,500 were destroyed. The mill was again destroyed by fire at the end of the following year. There's also, apart from having a chronological section, year by year, date by date, at the end of each year there's also an obituary section which does list people who died in that year. And so you can get some very interesting clues from those. So in this one, April 15th, 1868, Dr. F.C. Bayer, aged 52, much appreciated for his professional skill and large-hearted benevolence. Also in the obituary sections, April 31st, 1871, Mr. J. Bears Burford, a pioneer colonist who arrived in 1837. 14th of November, 1871, Mr. Charles Platts, who for a third of a century carried on business as bookseller and stationer. He arrived in 1839. So like I said, you can find some very interesting clues here for your family history. 1872, in January, the lighthouse at Cape Jaffa, a prominent point near Lassape Bay, was first opened. And great damage was done, also during January, great damage was done to the southern portions of the overland telegraph from extraordinarily high floods. Just a couple more. So March the 27th, 1876, the census was taken. At that time, the South Australian colony had 2,000 231,271 people. Of that, there was just over 110,000 males and almost 103,000 females. Get that right. And then in July 1876, on one afternoon, 2 men obtained 6 ounces of gold at the Yachunga diggings. That was a good afternoon for them. Also on July the 6th, 1876, there was a stranding on True Ridge Shoals of the ship Lightning with 406 immigrants on board. They were transferred to Port Adelaide, and on the 9th of July, the ship was floated off, and the captain's certificate was suspended on the grounds of carelessness and drunkenness. And the last one, the July the 11th, 1876, there was a severe hailstorm, and there were 6 inches of hail lay on the ground at Gould. That's an insane amount of hail. Anyway, so that is just a few samples. One extra one here. In August 1876, a town acre in Wakefield Street sold for £5,000. So you can see there's a whole bunch of different information. People, places, events, businesses, and so on. It's a fascinating, like I said, fascinating chronological history of South Australia. So that is History of South Australia, Foundation to Jubilee. You can find all the information below.